All right, welcome to episode 3, week 2 of the UFL season. I am your host, XFL Mike G, and with us, as usual, are Rick 8-Bit, our producer. Wave to everybody, Rick.
What's up, guys?
So enthusiastic. And Royce, aka Viking Wax Press. How you doing, Royce?
Doing great. Yep.
All right, big weekend this weekend. Lots and lots and lots to talk about. First off, just general one-word impression for this week. Just one word from each of you guys on this weekend.
What sticks out is Easter with the comeback, so I'm going to go with comeback.
Yeah.
Comeback. Okay. Royce, one word for this weekend.
It's hard to beat that, but I go with, I think, offense. When I think of that Dallas game, there was just so much offense in that game. It was pretty – well, that's just one game, though. There was one game that was very defensive, so – I'll go comebacks too, because that's the best one. Comebacks.
All right. And joining us is DeMarcus as well. DeMarcus, one word on how you would describe this weekend's UFL action.
One word. I would say that we kept it steady, good energy, good rollover from last weekend.
So which of those one words?
Consistent.
Yeah, it's hard to put just one word on it, but and I lost my one word that I had because Rick kind of took it, but yeah, it was an awesome weekend. The comeback from Houston, nobody really saw that coming. I kind of hinted at it if you go back and look at our post, but I'm going to throw it over to Rick, and he's going to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Well, folks, we got a pretty jam-packed show. Like usual, we're just going to review what happened last week, keep it short and sweet, and we're going to move into what we're going to have happening next week. Royce does some awesome cards with some comeback players of the week and everything. I have my throwback moment where we have a couple of matchups that I have seen before, and we also have a couple of matchups now in this part of the season where we have repeat matchups. So Friday night's game will be a repeat of something we already saw. So it's going to make it interesting. I think it's definitely going to be one of those weeks where they have everything spaced out, but it's also going to be interesting because you have 2 high noon starts on the East Coast. So that means like our friends like Royce in the west part of the states are talking about you're having eggs and beer at 9:00 in the morning to watch some football. So it's definitely going to be an interesting weekend with the schedule, guys. Anything you're looking forward to right off the bat?
I think that the interesting thing to me about week 3 is the matchup again with the Kings and the Storm, that back-to-back matchup they had. I think that's going to be fascinating to see who can the Kings come back and win that game after they lost it last week.
What about you, DeMarcus? Anything jump off the bat?
I'm kind of interested in that same thing. I want to see if they can finally get those receivers to kind of help Jason Bean out a little bit better. There's a lot of drops. They don't really seem to be on the same page. So yeah, I want to kind of see if they can get that going a little bit more.
How do you guys feel about the broadcast lately? The Friday night ones compared to everything else. Do you feel like the Friday night games are setting the stage for the week?
Boy, to me, the ESPN shows are just hard to watch just because they are so invasive. It's cringy. So I think I'd rather see the Fox broadcasts every time, personally.
I used to be a big fan of the ESPN broadcasts. I thought they were a little bit more exciting, and less kind of sterile. But they just went over the top with the gambling talk, and then with the constant sideline interviews and stuff like that. So it's kind of, they got to go back to the drawing board a little bit.
Yeah. I'm digging the way Fox is. I feel like by having it Friday night with one matchup, it really is getting everything going. So far, they had two big matchups with teams that are brand new to spring football audiences. So it really has been feeling like it has a little extra freshness to it. These Friday night games, between Louisville and Columbus, and they really make it feel like you're watching something and you're getting pumped. And the only thing I don't know if you guys are digging, but it was weird to see Columbus have an end zone while everyone else had a fake end zone. Maybe I'm too much of a purist, but it was a little bit of a weird side for me, and I couldn't tell if in the beginning if that was actually CGI or if that was actually legit.
I liked it. I liked the actual end zone. It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So as we get ready for Mike to join us, I'm just going to jump to this since we're covering some hot topics right now. And anything you guys feel like jumped off the bat with you for last week, and anything you want to bring up, or you guys ready to jump in to review week 2?
For me, it just I thought Dallas showed everybody that they're real. Week 2 for me was the prove it. I wanted to see if the teams from week 1 that did great could stay consistent, like the Battlehawks, and they didn't. The Stallions did not. So I guess it kind of gave us a good, well-rounded picture of what teams really are, and I was glad to see that.
Yeah, I think for me,
and DeMarcus, I know you. Since I know you're short on time, is there anything you want to bring up from the Dallas Renegades against the St. Louis Battlehawks game?
Just kind of give an overview. I mean, Dallas pretty much won it handily. I don't think anybody watching that game I don't think anybody would have thought that at some point in time Dallas was in jeopardy of losing. But Austin Reed did prove what I was looking for, that he could duplicate what he did the previous week. It wasn't just playing a bad team. He had 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyler Vaughn's just exploded. I mean, this guy had 11 catches. Royce had a nice graphic up on his X account. He had 3 scores. Tyler Vaughn's already now has more touchdowns, or as many touchdowns so far this year as he did all of last year. So they're really getting this guy involved. Running game is still kind of lacking. Dede Hunter had that one, I think that 50-yard run or something like that. But outside of that, running game really didn't give you anything to write home about. I will say, given that I've gone to Renegades games every year, they are getting that running game involved sooner than they typically do. It typically takes them till like around game 4. But I mean, they're throwing the ball to the flat, to the running back. They're still getting them involved even when they can't necessarily just run the traditional way. DBs look good. Quinterio Cole got that interception. They got 2 interceptions on the night, 1 sack. So everything's looking pretty good with the Renegades so far. I'd like to see some improvement on the kick return and, like I said, the running game. But other than that, I think I like what I see so far.
Did you have a chance to go to the game Tuesday night or hear any
I
feedback
did
for how
not.
it was?
That's a school night, and so I wasn't going to be. Frisco is about an hour from me, so that wasn't going to be a drive I could make on a school night.
No worries. So I think, Mike, are you ready to get going?
Yep, I'm back. I thought, where are we at? Because I'm sorry, guys, I lost track of where we're at.
Marcus might have to jump out, so I figured have him talk about the Dallas Renegades real quick in case he had to pop out, take care of some things. So we're back to starting to talk about Friday night's game and go from there.
Okay, Friday night's game. Friday night is definitely a vibe. I definitely get. I want to be there when I hear the crowd, see the crowd. I definitely want to be there. My initial thoughts on this game, is DC back? Is real quickly, guys. I think they're back. I think if they can show some more consistency, granted, the first 2 games of the UFL season are a little rough because there's no preseason. But just real quickly, guys, what are your thoughts on DC and Columbus?
I'll start. I agree with you. I thought DC looked really strong. Like we talked about last week with the way short turnaround, we kind of had a feeling that Harris would be able to fix things quickly, and they did. They definitely, that running game is what people know DC for, and they had some really good runs. They definitely looked clean. They looked like they fixed some things, and I think a lot of us are shocked. I mean, this is what we expected out of DC, so I think it's going to be curious to see if this is the DC we're going to get or if that was a one-time deal.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they head that direction. Real quickly, and I'm trying not to go too much into in depth. I know we've got a lot of people and we can get a lot of opinions, so we're going to go and institute the 2-finger rule. So if you want to jump in, give me 2 fingers. If not, we'll move on. All right, guys. That game, it's kind of showed a lot about Columbus as well. Are they going to be able to keep it together down the stretch? Is McClendon going to have to save them week in and week out? Any thoughts on that?
For me, I
Hey,
think
Royce, go ahead.
I think the Columbus offense is just stuttering. They've got a couple good pieces. Like Tay Martin looks really good as a receiver. They just don't seem to – they kind of are rotating the running backs, and they haven't found the guy that's going to be consistent. They've got 3 good ones in Zacondre Wright, White, and then Lovett and Toatawa. So, but for whatever reason, they can't get them rolling. So they need to work on that aspect of their offense. Otherwise, they're just – I mean, they scored 26 points. That's not bad, but it was mostly in kind of a comeback attempt. So I think McClendon has not been as good as we all hoped he would be. But I think a lot of that comes down to coaching. For me, it's a brand new coach just is not giving them the game plan they need to take advantage of those weapons that they do have.
Yeah, definitely. And like you were talking about with the running backs, normally 3 running backs, a 3-headed monster is a good thing. But if you don't know how to utilize them, it seems like they get Tawa going early, and if he's running well, they'll stick with him. If not, they got a real quick hook with him. They're trying to get Zaquandre to be their feature, and I like Lovett as well, but it feels like the inexperience of that coaching staff. They still don't know how to get that 3-headed monster going yet. It kind of feels a bit like not like select ball, if you guys are familiar with select ball and rec ball, but it feels a little bit like rec ball, the way select, where they've gathered all these people and they're just trying to throw it together on the wall and see what sticks. But if anybody else has any thoughts on that, we'll move on to the next game.
I don't think we know what their identity is.
Real quick shout out to Adam Stowe in the chat. Hey, Adam. He's from the World of Football podcast. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
I have definitely seen that show, and I love that show. And my World of Football is one of my favorite shirts. I won that in the contest, and I meant to wear it the first episode, but you couldn't really see it. But yeah, hey Adam, how's it going?
Awesome.
All right, Gang 2 between the Kings and the Storm. We're going to let Rick talk about this a little bit before I jump in. Kings and Storm. Rick, what do you think?
So I'm a huge Jason Bean fan, so it kind of bugged me a little. 4 of 15 wasn't a good start. Unfortunately, got benched. I feel like Louisville is waiting for that running game to start, and once they click, I think they're there, but they're still not there yet. They had 6 rushers, 13 attempts for 26 yards.
That's terrible.
That's not good. To put in perspective, Orlando had 7 rushers, 34 attempts, and 89 yards. So definitely, this is going to be interesting because it's going to be who has the ability to fix on the fly, because now this is your Friday night matchup. This is going to be your rinse repeat system. So our team's holding back, so not that many people know, hey, this is my game plan for next week. We don't know. But I want Bean to be successful, and I think he has all the tools. It brings up to our conversation we had a couple weeks ago. It's, do you go with the hot hand? I feel like if Louisville fixes things, they have a shot. But I hope Bean corrects things, and I like to see Bean get his win soon.
Now, you bring up an interesting point, Rick, that I hadn't thought of. Do you think that's why they went ahead and gave some opportunity to their number 2 quarterback, knowing that they're going to face Orlando again? That's an interesting thing, theory that I hadn't really explored. So, and I was going to go into, we'd always talked about the adage, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And what did you like? What did you see? Anybody can take this one between these 2 quarterbacks for the Kings, and who takes over and who's got the lead so far. Anybody want to take that one?
I'll take that.
Royce, go ahead.
For Rodgers, he actually said in the post game that they told him ahead of the time that he was going to come in on the 3rd drive, so they had planned it that way. It's not like they yanked Bean because he was doing bad, but it did seem a little disjointed. And Chandler looked okay at first, but then he threw a pick. They brought Bean back. To me, just on the eye test alone, I think Bean is slightly better, and he can definitely run. Chandler's looked like he could run too, though, or Chandler Rodgers looks like he could run too. But I think Bean is probably the guy they're going to stick with. Now, the interesting thing is they just signed Chem Okorafor, who played on the Panthers last year, to help them block, because they need blocking help pretty badly. So I think he could make the difference this week. Go ahead, Marcus.
I was just going to add, just don't forget that they did fire their offensive line coach after game 1.
Yeah.
So whoever they're putting in there now may have a different philosophy.
Yep.
Yeah, and to what Royce was saying, that signing, because when he was originally, he was one of the last cuts. And I was like, how is anybody in the UFL going to let this man go? And it was good to see him get re-signed, and I'm sure he'll work his way back into that rotation. Yeah. But I think the Kings, if they can get Bean to settle down, they get that line to settle down, they figure out how to distribute the ball a little bit better, I think we can see some things. And I think they'll give the Orlando, and I don't want to get into my prediction, but I think they'll give Orlando a good game next week. Marcus? Oh, sorry. I thought you had your hand up.
No.
Okay, so I'm ready to move on to the next game. We moved through these games pretty fast because we want to get to this one. I do want to spend some time on this game here. Birmingham at Houston. The entire UFL fandom was like, Birmingham has got this. The Gamblers have nothing. It's going to be a cakewalk. It was anything but. It was an Easter Day miracle. The benching, I don't want to say benching, but the starting of Hunter Deckers was the spark they kind of needed, but you still saw some of the things that they needed to get accomplished, and that's with that line as well. It was great to see them finally getting Hall and Kirkland and some of those receivers involved, and got them involved pretty early. Previous week, it took until the 3rd quarter for Jontre Kirkland to get his 3rd and 4th catch in that game against Dallas. But with Deckers being down, there's going to be some signings going on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk to my Stallions in-house expert, Royce. What are your thoughts on this game?
To me, the big difference in the Stallions between this year and last year is all about coaching, because they have the roster to do it. But what that tells me is they don't have the game plan or the coaching behind it to make that roster successful like it should be, because that roster should roll over pretty much every team in the league but DC, and they haven't. They barely won game one, and they really tanked game two. And I think that's game plan, because you've got McFarland should have had a lot more carries. Now, Corral didn't do bad through the air, but he did have two just out of the nowhere bad passes that kind of ruined the game for them. But overall, he actually looked pretty good, and Mickens looks amazing at receiver. So they've got some good weapons there, but they just aren't utilizing. They're not meshing the way they should. So,
yeah, and I don't know if that's like you were talking about coaching, because we had previously talked in week one, was it going to be the roster saving AJ, and it kind of turned out to be the opposite. And then this week it was like they kind of shot themselves in the foot one too many times, and I don't think AJ had enough in his experience bag there to kind of get them to where they needed to be. They made it close. It was there's literally nothing else you can say but a Easter Day miracle. Some of the fans that went there were featured on the Ludacris halftime concert. If you saw that on the left of stage, the Predator couple was there. Brahma Babe was there. You saw Rig Rocker, his new persona, Joker Wild, was there, heavily featured. So I got to see a lot of my friends on TV going, hey, I know that guy, and I know that guy. But it was a great game, great environment. And I did want to talk real quickly about McFarland now that Royce had brought it up. Again, some of these teams, they're still struggling to how do we use which running back when and where. It's obvious in some cases when a certain running back is coming in, he's their featured running back, so they're stacking the line. So some of these guys haven't gotten untracked as of yet. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with McFarland. He's been returning kicks. He's been catching a lot out of the backfield, which is kind of his forte, and we saw that a lot in San Antonio.
The cool thing is it was good to see Deion Kane back to catching passes the way we know he can. So I'd like to see that part of it again. But I got to say, who would have ever guessed that the Stallions with Skip Holtz would be way worse, without Skip Holtz would be way worse? And I guess everybody knew that the minute they lost Skip Holtz, they'd be just way worse off. And it's just proving to be true. So one quick note, though, on the post game, I loved Nolan Henderson's interview about how it being Easter week, it was a tough week because he got benched the week before. And it was kind of a redemption story fitting for Easter week. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and he definitely, when he got into the game, he showed that, hey, I'm a quarterback too. I'm a starting quarterback as well. But some of these quarterbacks, and we'll talk about Silvers in our next game, they're very hit or miss. They have a wonderful game, or they kind of have games where they have 2 interceptions, a lot of bad passes, a lot of overthrows. And that's kind of, I hate to say it, but it's kind of typical in the UFL right now. The first two games of the season are always rough, but this is the part that I'm looking forward to, getting past these, what I would call preseason games that count. And one of the other things I wanted to mention too about Houston, before we go on, you know what? And I lost my thought. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move on to St. Louis and Dallas. I do want to hear from DeMarcus and Royce on this one, and I wanted to highlight coaching before you go too much into your facts and your opinions. Just your thoughts each, first with DeMarcus on coaching and how it played a part in this game.
Well, I watched the press conference after the game, and Tyler Vaughns talked about how much closer the offensive crew is this year as compared to last year. He didn't go into why or anything like that, but you can just tell by the communication watching it on television, these guys, there's a whole lot more love between these guys. They seem to just be on the same page. Austin Reed just slid right into that leadership role. So I think it bleeds over from Neuheisel's approach. Neuheisel just oozes enthusiasm for what he's doing, which I think is a difference.
Yeah. Royce, same question. Coaching, how did it play any part in this game?
I agree. I think Neuheisel is clearly the more seasoned coach. I don't think Pearl did a bad job, but I think he's got some First of all, I think on the defensive side, they have Carlos Davis, who is just a little bit out of control. He's kind of like the Hulk, where he gets angry and he does bash people and get in trouble, and he just does stupid moves when he gets he goes into a rage and knocks a quarterback out who's throwing the ball 5 seconds ago. It's dumb moves, but at the same time, he's dominant when he does. But it's just
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. It's just sad. I think that comes
the
down to
headbutting.
yeah. Oh, it's just stupid. But overall, though, and that's kind of what he did when he was with Stallions too. He's just that kind of guy. But I think Abraham, not Abraham, they're Chamblin, their defensive coach, whatever his name is. I'm blanking right now. But anyway, he's going to have to get that under control. He can't let Carlos kill the team like he's kind of doing. But overall, otherwise, I think Prohl as a head coach did a pretty good job, just not as good as Neuheisel.
Yeah, and there's definitely something to be said. I mean, like you were saying, Prohl didn't do a horrible job, but what he and Ginn and Redmond are finding out, there's some things you can't prepare for. You have to experience it and go through it as a coach, just to kind of see a live fire drill. DeMarcus, your thoughts on this game, and I'll let you run with this a little bit here.
Yeah, I kind of went through it a little bit earlier, where I talked about. I was happy to see that Austin Reed could duplicate what he did last week. A lot of people would have said, well, he was playing against Houston, so of course he put up a lot of yards. But he went up against a defense that put Tom on the ground 7 times. So this is not a slouch.
Right.
So he was able to duplicate that. I liked how they were able to get Tyler Bonds involved. The running game, the passes to the flat are coming along very well. I was saying earlier that normally in the second game of the season, second and third game of the season, the Renegades still can't really do anything with their running backs. And we're seeing this year that they're probably 2 or 3 games ahead of where they normally are.
Yeah, it may be one of the cases where the passing game opens up the running game as opposed to vice versa.
Well, the thing is, they always have a good passing game, but they just never really tried to do much there. The running back was always open in the flat last year. They just never threw the ball to the running back. So it's just
it's interesting to see this evolution because it's not the same offense, and so it's kind of interpreted a bit different. Royce, did you want to bring any thoughts about St. Louis into this?
I just think they'll bounce back. They're still a pretty sound team overall. They need to get their offense going, and I think just more practice. Now that Butler's back, and he had one super awesome catch, but he just needs more practice time with Silvers once they get in sync. I think he can just make a couple scores per game happen if he gets that deep ball. And, if he can get that timing down with Silvers, they'll be right back in it. I'm not really too worried about St. Louis.
Yeah, and what I was getting to with the coaching aspect of it, and DeMarcus kind of alluded to it a little bit. St. Louis's pass rush is fierce on the first one. So Rick Neuheisel and his staff saw that, so they adjusted to a short passing game, get that ball out. We did not. Did Pita even have a sack at all this game?
Nope.
We hardly heard his name called at all, and I kept waiting for it. After that brilliant strategy where they moved him around last week, well, Dallas said, you know what, we see that, and we'll go to a short passing game. We'll try to run this ball at you, and they kind of neutralized that. So again, that's experienced coaching staff versus a newer coaching staff.
Right.
And I'm ready to move on if you are, Rick, unless anybody has any thoughts on that.
Guys, I got to run.
Good to see you, DeMarcus.
Good to see you.
All right. Well, thank you, DeMarcus, for stopping by.
All right, no problem.
All right. What game's next? Oh, are we done with the games?
Yeah,
Nice.
we're done with
We're done with the games. We're done with the games, and this is a piece that Royce has put together. Your stamp of approval here. I'll let you take it away, Royce.
Okay. And this is where I've got just my digital cards that I make for the player of the game for each game. So I've got for the Renegades game, it was Tyler Vaughn's with his 3 TDs, 11 catches. what was 147 yards, something like that. Just amazing game. He just makes catches look easy. He gets wide open, speedy, fast, and great hands, ability to jump. I think so far he's the best receiver in the league this year, easily. And he has been really in the top 5, at least for the last few years. So it's not really a shocker. For another 3 touchdown guy over the weekend was DC's Deion Jackson. So this card to him is he got the player of the game for that game, and deservedly so. He just kind of ate them alive and made the ground game just roll for DC. They were just on fire. They didn't even really need to pass all game. They just handed off the rock. So, and then let's move on to the other 2. I think I made 2 more. So Elijah Badger, he's the second week in a row he got the player of the game for the Storm. He just looks heads and tails above everybody else as far as a receiver on that team. And he doesn't always get deep balls, but man, he's the best yak guy out there, run or yards after catch. He just makes people miss. He's phenomenal at making people miss. So Elijah Badger, keep it up, man. He came out of nowhere to me because I didn't know of him before this year. He seems like he's going to be an all-pro for sure. And then John Hoyland, 5 of 5 to get the game winner at the buzzer for the Gamblers. He's the game player of the game for that game. Phenomenal game for him. So to me, he's kicker of the year so far. So those are my 4 players of the game for the week.
And just to kind of put the cherry on top, because I agree with every single one of those. But did you see who the UFL chose for Houston, Royce?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. They chose Henderson as the offensive player of the week, which I think you had other candidates out there. But the fact that he did it on Easter and it was a comeback story and he had been benched, can't really blame him. It's pretty cool. But there were other guys who definitely had better stats. But as far as a feel-good story, I can see why they picked him. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Who's ready to move on to our preview section? Now, our preview section is a little bit different this week. I will go ahead and note this. We did not get our picks in on time to make it for the show, but they will be out and published and posted prior to Friday's kickoff. And I'll get all that together and post that on our socials. And make sure you're following us on social. We finally have our Twitter up. It's at AFP altfootballpanel.com. Alt Football Panel on Twitter, Alt Football Panel on Facebook. All right, so let's move on to our game 1, Storms at Kings. And this is a rematch, home and home series. UFL's got some weird home and home things going on. Yeah. I kind of thought maybe, and I this is something that I looked at before, to make some of these other games that Rapoli really wanted to happen at certain times, it kind of threw off the rest of the schedule to kind of make his dream schedule. So we've got a couple of these home and homes, but this is the first of the home and homes. Rick, what are your thoughts on Storm and Kings?
So this is where situations like this is definitely going to be, you're going to see experienced coaches against non-experienced. So look at last game. Harris had a chance to regroup. Defenders won. Now you have the Storm 2-0. They already seen the Kings. So who can come up with a better game plan? Will the Storms be able to, they already know how the Kings are going to go. That's why I brought up, in our recap, it's like our team's going to hold back. Now I also have this stat for you guys. I'm a stat guy, and here's an interesting fact. On the Friday night games are the only time we've seen the away teams win this year.
Yeah.
Every other games are going to the home teams, but Friday nights it tends to go to the away team. So with this being another matchup, do the Kings finally break that trend and get their first win at home, or do the Storm prevail? It's definitely going to be interesting. Like I said before, I hope Bean gets back on track. They looked great, and Bean had that energy level in that first game with the Kings. And if it wasn't for them having, Butterfingers, the outcome would have been different. So if they have it going, and if they have Bean, going, I feel like Bean is more electric. And I feel like him in that stadium can definitely provide some big moments that will actually lead to some success for the Kings.
I agree with your assessment. I think they're actually going to pull out the win in Louisville because I think the home team crowd is going to make the difference. And I think it's just close enough in roster makeup that neither one of them is great, neither one of them is terrible. And the Kings have had a couple close games. I think they're going to come back and actually get the win, even though it's a Friday night where the home team usually hasn't won so far. I think they're going to get it in a very close game. But I think for me, I'm a big John Lewis fan. So, John, make him win that one for me. So it'll be a
And
fun
one of
game.
the benefits of going last is you guys took my points. I agree with both of you. Rick took my first half of my point, and Royce finished off the rest of it. But yeah, I'm definitely. And your picks, guys, when you send them to me, this doesn't count. You have to actually send me a text pick. I'm not going to come back and watch the show. But I am actually going to go with the Kings at home, Friday Night Football. It's going to be electric.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't say anything. I was taking the Kings, for the record.
Oh, well, your statement about the home team, I'm sorry, the road team.
Yeah.
I'm all thrown off now.
I'm
going to take the Kings. I'm taking the Kings, and I'll put that down, mark it down, and I'll get that posted out as soon as I can. So, game 2, Houston at DC. This is going to be an interesting game because Hunter Dekkers, as we haven't gotten official word yet, but it looks like an ACL, which is 4 to 6 weeks. The Gamblers recently signed today a familiar name for us if you're familiar with the alternate football and the indoor and arena leagues. Sam Castronova, who was famously with Albany, he was with San Antonio, the Gunslingers. He had signed with Memphis prior to Mike Rapoli blowing everything up. So he's going to be there with the other Tagovailoa with Henderson. So who do you guys think takes snaps? Who's obviously it's going to be Henderson, but do you think that's going to last long? Do you think other guys are going to get some spin in this particular game?
I think it's going to be all Henderson. I don't think they're going to really – I don't think either one of those guys have the snaps. Like, they've only been there a short time, no practice time with the players. So I think it's all going to be all Henderson this week. I do think if the Gamblers lose a few more, I think they could bring Castronova in and see what he can do. Same with the Tagovailoa. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sold on him. I'd actually rather see Castronova personally, but we'll see.
Yeah, I've watched Castronova in San Antonio with the Gunslingers. I was a big fan of his. Rick, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah. As much as I would say they changed it up, I feel like they're going to have to stick to the same game plan just because you had a game where you played late Sunday. So then you had to go back to Arlington because that's where the hub is. And now you have a game Saturday at noon. So they're probably leaving Arlington Friday evening. That's a really short time to get a quarterback up to speed. Yeah. So I think they're just going to have to keep it how it was and just hope they have good conditions. It's actually supposed to be warm in the East Coast, unlike currently where it's 38 degrees and I'm outside. But as long as conditions are good, I think the Gamblers can stay in it, especially the way the kicks are. That kicker was fantastic last week. And I think, honestly, this might be a kicking game. I know Rapoli wants to see touchdowns, but this might be a game where if the conditions are good, you might have some 60-yard kicks going back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to see. I think DC takes it, though, overall. If I had to take my pick at it, McCrane, even though the other kicker was 5 of 5, I could see McCrane doing the same thing because he's the guy that hit the 60-yarder earlier and has been great consistently for the last 3 years. So why not have another good game? He's just that good. So go ahead, Rick.
I'll also say, I don't want to ruin on the Gamblers parade, but if it wasn't for that challenge on that play where they were able to go down, Stallions win that game. So that's something we haven't brought up yet, and not many people are talking about. The beauty of the UFL is you have one challenge to challenge anything. It was a fourth down. They got the challenge. They were able to get overturned and then kick the game winner. So if this was the NFL, Houston's 0-2. So I think, and I agree with you. I think DC's, I think they might have found their rhythm. And it's at home, which, it's their first home game of the year. I think Audi Field's going to be hopping. The champs are their first home game. Put that in perspective too. I think the odds are, no pun intended, but the odds are not in the gambler's favor.
Yeah, I think the defenders probably get this one by, 10. I think they're going to roll them pretty good. But the gamblers are good enough. They showed us that they can hang tough, and they've actually put up quite a few points in each game. So they can score a little bit, but I don't think they're going to be able to match the defenders in DC.
Yeah, final thoughts on that. I'm going to go ahead and take DC as well, just because the uncertainty at the quarterback position. If Hunter Deckers was healthy and still playing, I'd probably roll with him. I'm taking DC with that one, and I'll stick with that one. Next game, Aviators at Renegades. Normally we'd have DeMarcus on this one. Man, I need to get DeMarcus. We need to get Mike T. Bell back on and cover the Columbus Aviators here. It doesn't look good for Columbus, and I hate to be that blunt and that analytic about it, but it doesn't look good for the Aviators. This is an opportunity for the Renegades to really kind of secure that front running position for the number one spot. Anybody got any thoughts on this game before I jump into it too much? Go ahead, Rick.
I find it interesting. If you look at it, this is the third home game in a row for Dallas. So considering you had a Tuesday night game, this is a Sunday. This is from them probably like 11 o'clock. This will be interesting. Your team's now 2-0. How will the stands be? I know a lot of people have been complaining recently, but I'm a math guy. They're filling about 0.5%, half of the stadium, but you're 2-0. You have this. I'm hoping that the stands are packed, and if they are, I feel like no one can stop Dallas, especially at home. It's going to be interesting, their first road game, to see if they've had luck on their side or what. But unfortunately, and when you guys see the power rankings, you'll see this is basically David against Goliath. You have a veteran coach against inexperience, and it's just too much in Dallas's favor here.
Yeah, I second all of those things. It's going to be too much to overcome for the Aviators. I hate that their fans have to have them start 0-3, but Dallas is going to be 3-0, period. There's just no way they can lose, and I should knock on wood, but I think they're going to roll them. This is the lopsided game of the week for the baby blue teams.
So, Rick, who do the Aviators play next week? If you could look that up for me real quick.
I will.
While we're kind of vamping here, because I'm kind of going somewhere with this, and I alluded to it a bit earlier. But yeah, this has all the makings of a mud stomping, if you want to call it. What's your favorite adjective for a blowout, Royce?
Flogging. I'll go with flogging. Although that should be the horse team should get the flogging one, but either way, this is going to be I don't know. What do Renegades do well? Pistol whip. There you go.
The Aviators will be grounded. Rick, you have that answer for me.
So I do have an answer for you, and unfortunately, it doesn't look good for Columbus because it's a home series. So they host Dallas next week.
So yeah, I was talking about it earlier. It's one of those weird things that it's a quirk of the schedule, whatever you want to call it. I think it's because Mr. Rapoli had to have his way with the schedule and get his games where he wanted them. But there's a lot of weird quirks. It does look awful for Columbus. And it's back-to-back. It's going to be back-to-back. But maybe Columbus can sneak one of those two and kind of split them if Dallas decides they're going to get big-headed and overlook them in the next week. But this week, it's definitely going to be the Renegades.
And you never know. In the NFL, sometimes injuries can change the game, and we've seen it in past season. So one injury can make a big difference. So let's pray it doesn't happen. But if that happens, who knows? But go ahead.
What's going to be interesting is this is a Sunday game. These two teams will play again the Friday night game. So,
wow,
it really, I'm not saying, but that's a mountain to climb really quick.
Yeah.
Rick, and during our off season, we love to dig into stuff, and Rick is especially good at digging into stuff like this. He loves to go down these rabbit holes. We need to come together and put together a schedule next year before the UFL does and say, this is the schedule you need. Don't mess it up. The NFL takes as soon as the season is over for the NFL, the next day they start working on that schedule. And, they don't have to they don't have to allow anybody else to use their facilities. They have full run of all their facilities, unlike the UFL that's got to share. But I think not so much the days, but the matchups were kind of odd. All right, St. Louis
Mike, real quick for you.
Okay, go ahead, Rick.
So, because you were just talking about that, I pulled up my schedule I did before the season started. So the day before Dallas hosts Columbus, FC Dallas has a game. So this might be we were talking about last time, maybe rain would help because Houston was having 2 games in a row before. This might actually help Columbus, because how will conditions be? Because you have a FC Dallas game Saturday, and then at noon you have a Renegades game.
Interesting.
Yeah, sharing these soccer facilities is interesting, and it's a lot more work for the grounds crew, and that's something that the casual fan doesn't really take into account. That these ground crews have to turn over these facilities, get them ready from one sport to another, and that takes a toll on that field. And sometimes they have to replace and resaw it, and that's pretty expensive. But we're going to go and jump into Stallions at Battlehawks, and I have this down as the premier matchup of the week. Royce, Stallions and Battlehawks. You're covering both of these teams. It's your time to shine.
Yeah, and both have rookie coaches, but to me, from what I've seen, Prohl is the better of the 2 coaches, and both rosters are pretty stacked. I actually think the Stallions have the better roster, but since it's at St. Louis, with that rabid crowd that they have, they're going to get the win here off the energy that they bring, off the defense that can really shut down a lot of teams. They couldn't shut down Dallas, but they can shut down a lot of teams. I think overall they've got the ability and they'll have the energy to be able to take out the Stallions. I think it'll be a close, fun game back and forth, but overall I think that the Battlehawks are going to be able to take this one.
Yeah, and I'm 50-50 on it. Yeah, Rick, go ahead, because I'm still kind of percolating on this one. Go ahead, Rick.
I was liking what you were thinking, but then I realized that McCarron, it's his return back to the Dome. So if there's anyone who actually might be able to silence them, it's someone who actually played for them. So would that help me determine that the Stallions? Unfortunately, no. I'm taking St. Louis here, but I think this is going to be a matchup, a matchup that's super tight. And honestly, if you actually look at our power rankings, you'll see too, this is going to be one of the team matchups. We always talk about 4, 5, and 6 on this program. This is going to be one of those where this is going to help. This matchup itself will be the reason one team makes the playoffs and one team doesn't.
Yeah,
exactly. And all these games with such a truncated season, 10 games, every game counts. And with the lack of divisions, it's pretty clear. It's pretty cut and dry. You win, you're in, This game, I'm still 50-50 on. I'm still on the fence. I haven't decided yet. I'll decide by this Friday. I like both storylines. AJ's coming back. I think the Stallions have a little bit better roster than the Battlehawks. I think Prohl can use that roster a little bit better, but he's got to find something with the line, the run game. I think the run game will take care of itself if the quarterback play is consistent, and I don't think Silvers is it. I don't know what their solution is. I think they have another guy kind of along the line with what Dallas was doing with Reed. They've got another guy that they want to look at down the road. I can't remember his name. I think he was with the CFL. He had signed a deal with the CFL. Had come back. Royce, if you could educate me on that one.
Sure, that's Harrison Frost. He was with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He had previously played with the Seattle Sea Dragons, but he was third string. But he actually was one of Ricky Proehl's son. Austin Proehl was on the Sea Dragons with him, so he's a familiar name to Proehl. He brought him in, and they do have another QB in Michael Pratt, so they could go with him too. But overall, I think it'll take quite a bit for them to pull the string on Silvers because he's the veteran. But I do think, if they lose against the Battlehawks, you might see them try either Frost or Pratt.
I think whoever's got the best connection with Butler, you just keep spamming him and keep just chucking that ball at him.
Agreed.
Go with that. I mean, you can't fail with that. Rick, did you have a thought?
No, I completely agree. I feel like if you get Butler more involved in that game, it's going to help that running game get going as well. And it might give Silvers a little better time in the pocket and everything.
Yep.
Yep. And I think that's it. That's game 4. So we can talk about, I'll let Rick handle this part because I'm not sure the order of what we've got everything in. So I'll let Rick kind of take over for this last part here.
So we have power rankings. We tend to, and our recaps and everything with that. And so unfortunately, I'm the one who sees everything first. So I mentioned this, and I'm going to show you guys now what I was talking about with the 4, 5, and 6, especially with this matchup. So what I did this week is I also made it where we could see how far they've moved. So we have some movers and some fallers real quick. And our matchup between Birmingham and St. Louis is our 6 against the 4 matchup. And Birmingham's fallen 4 spots from last week. And you have St. Louis, who also fell. So it's one of the matchups where you have 2 teams who have both fallen from last week's ranking. So it definitely will add to it. And then we throw into what we were talking about before with Dallas and Columbus. It's literally, since March Madness was only a few weeks ago, it's your 1 versus 8 seed.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to.
Now, speaking of that, people were asking why Tuesday? Why Tuesday? I know you guys know. Who wants to answer that question? Why do we play on a Tuesday night? Go ahead, Rick.
Well, unfortunately, the Yukon Huskies lost on Monday. That's why.
I didn't mean to throw it to you to rub it in your face. And I knew Michigan won, and I totally forgot UConn lost in that. So I'm sorry, Rick. But yeah, the reason why we go on Tuesday is because it was the first available slot after March Madness and all that ended. So for those of you who are new to the UFL, that's why we played on that particular Tuesday. But I do love these rankings. And I love the fact that you've added the plus or minus on the rankings because throughout the season, that'll be a very telling indicator. Royce, what do you think when you first glance at these? Anything pop off to you?
No, I think it's going to be fascinating to see if the Storm can hold that spot because that's pretty high for a team that is a brand new team, if you will. They really, and especially if you look at it as they were the Brahmas last year, who were not a good overall. They didn't have a good record. I should say that because I think they had some good players. They didn't have a good record. But I think their coaching, Becht is obviously the best coach of the brand new teams. So that kind of makes sense why they're up there, but can they stay there? That's my real question.
And not to beat a dead horse, but let's say hypothetically Jake Plummer is playing for the Brahmas instead of Kellen Mond. Do you think the Brahmas finished with that record?
Jack Plummer, I think he does better. Yeah, he looks like he's okay. He does get a lot of short little passes, dump passes that their receivers are good at making yards after the catch. But overall, he's at least completing them and throwing them soundly. So I think he's a good game manager kind of quarterback where he can just play the little short game and look good. So I think he would probably be better than Mond if he were up Rama last year.
Yeah, and I hate to keep bringing that up, but it's I do have moments where I miss the Brahmas or I see the uniforms. When I first saw the Kings uniforms and I saw their letters kind of glowing, it reminded me of the uniforms of the Brahmas. But anyway, let's move on past that. Rick, did you want to add anything to this?
I will say this too. If you look up other matchups, you have two teams who actually moved up in the rankings. You have DC and Houston. You're 2 and 5. They're squaring off Saturday morning. So definitely some interesting matchups for predictions.
Yep.
Yeah, and Houston jumping way up to 5. Who had that? You know, Zom's going to look like a genius by the end of this because he had them, at 4 originally?
Yeah.
All right, time for predictions. Now, we didn't even really recap last week's predictions, and I'll do that real briefly because I don't expect you to pull that onto the screen. But Royce, what is your record last week?
I went 3-1. So far, I've missed one game each week, but I'll take that. 6-2 overall for the year. That's not too bad.
Yep, and overall for AFP, we're 6. Yeah, I think we all missed that one. I think we're all missing almost the same one sometimes. Yeah. But I'm 4-4. I'm sorry, I am 500 for the overall for the 2 weeks. I was 1-3 the first week and 3-1 this week. But overall for AFP, we've only missed 2 games, so we're 6-2 as a panel. Rick, did you want to jump in on that?
No, like I said before, I'm a stat guy. And looking at the stats, if you look at the past week 1 and week 2, your Friday night winners are your away team. The rest of the week, it's your home. And personally, just looking at the schedule for this week, I see it happening again. I feel like Orlando is going to be your victor, and the rest of your home teams, DC, Dallas, and St. Louis, pull out the victories.
Yeah, I'm decided on all my games except for that last game, that St. Louis Birmingham game. I'm gonna agonize over that one because that needs to be that's a marquee matchup and one the UFL should be playing up.
Yeah, I'm going all home teams personally this week. I think it's going to be home team sweep, but barely. Like that King Storm game could go either way, and that's a really close one. Same with the Stallions could take the Battlehawks by surprise, but I think that the fans get the energy level up where the Battlehawks just take them out.
Yeah, and that's see, and I'm going back and forth. I think AJ knows how to play in that dome, knows how to play, to kind of alleviate that home field. Well, he's coaching, but you know what I mean.
I know.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had a uniform in the coach's office, kind of like, hey, if you need me, I can jump in there, Matt. If you're missing high again, I'm gonna insert myself in there. But he's actually taken a kind of a mentorship role with Corral to kind of alleviate that, and they talk about that in the broadcast where he kind of said, hey, if you make a mistake, we're not going to yank you. Whereas Corral had been kind of operating under that for the last couple of years, thinking, if I make a mistake, I'm done. And so it'll be interesting to see how that relationship develops. Rick, do we have anything else going on?
Yeah, we have a couple more things. As lately we've been doing. So what's going to be is I like to do a AFN throwback. I've been doing some throwback videos of that and some couple matchups that are interesting. We have 2 repeats. I'm not going to cover Storm against the Kings because that's pretty fresh, but there are 2 matchups that actually stand out to me, and I'll drop them real quick so everybody can see. You have Birmingham against St. Louis. Surprisingly, and I hate to say this, Mike, this might make your pick even harder. They're dead even. Twice, only playing each other twice because of the way it was. They were in conferences before. They each have 1 win apiece.
Interesting.
And then when you go to DC against Houston, you have DC up 2-1. So definitely interesting. The Stallions DC matchups were about 4 or 5 points a piece, and these matchups basically have been the winner's been the home team. So a couple more extra stats. DC is the home team for this matchup. Does that trend continue, or does Houston finally tie up the series and take the win on the road?
Interesting. I'm sticking with DC. I'm just, unless things change. And the only thing I hate about having to make my pick so early in the week is I don't have time to really marinate on them, but I'm going to take till Friday to finish them out. But I'm going to stick with DC on this one. Royce?
Yeah, DC all the way for me. Not that the Gamblers aren't good, but I think DC is really good. And I think they're going to be able to take that home ground in the first home game and just use that to really kind of springboard them to the win.
Yep.
So I have something for you guys. As
ahead,
a
Rick.
stat guy, I'm going to throw these out, and you could tell me who had the better attendance. So these I brought a couple of stats from Major League Baseball. So on Easter, you had the Brewers at the Royals and Stallions at the Gamblers. One matchup was the stadium was 38.5% full. The other one was 37.5% full. You guys want to take a guess who had what?
I'll go with the higher
Well,
one.
I already know, so I'm not going to guess.
I'll guess Houston had slightly with 1% difference.
Brewers, Royals. But
okay.
To put that in perspective, Major League Baseball on Easter, 38% to 37%. So I know a lot of people are saying, oh, attendance and everything. But when you break it down like that with teams that everyone knows, it's interesting. And then I'll throw out this one real quick for you guys as well. So this is Tuesday, April 7th. You had Reds at Marlins, Padres at Pirates, Tigers at Twins, and Battlehawks at Renegades. You had 22.2%, 23.6%, 32%, and 52.7%. Which matchup had more people in the stands?
I don't know. I'm going to always say football.
Mike, do you know the answer?
I completely forgot.
It was
because I had a thought, but go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
It was Battlehawks at Renegades. Have 52.7% full. Reds at Marlins 22.2, Padres at Pirates 23.6, Tigers Twins 32. So I know a lot of people are going to say attendance and everything, but Battlehawks at Renegades on a Tuesday night had more capacity than 3 major league games.
That's pretty cool.
That is a great stat, Rick. And you showed it to me earlier, so that's how I already knew. But that definitely needs to get posted. And if you're following us, if you're watching right now, definitely follow us on your socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You're going to get great information from these guys. If you have anybody else have any final thoughts before I wrap it up?
No.
Royce?
Nope.
So along the lines of what we were just talking about with attendance, we've come across trolls and people were saying, oh, this and that about attendance and this and that. And the people who are content creators, who are podcasters, who are putting things out on social media, for the vast majority, the biggest part of them, is they're reporting these numbers so we can kind of monitor the health of the UFL. We're not doing it to be doomsayers or naysayers to say, oh, this league is going to fail. No, we're doing it to make people aware, to bring awareness, to inspire other people, to bring more fans. And I'm starting to see it more in Houston. Instead of with the free tickets, instead of saying, hey, I've got free tickets, who wants them? They've been giving them out before they went to social media to try to give them away. If you're trying to give them away on social media, most of the people who are on social media already have tickets. So invite your friends, invite your family that has never been to a game, that you've never taken to a game, never even talked about your team with. Those are the people that we want. But us reporting attendance is only to show the health and the kind of the direction that the UFL is going in. So it's never malice, or it's never a negative intention. So that's my final thought on that. Anybody else want to wrap it up?
Well said.
All right, gentlemen, I am good. It has been a great show. We got it in a little bit over an hour. We finally got everything tweaked out. We did all our tweaking. We've got everything nailed down about time-wise and things of that nature. So we hope you enjoy the show. Guys, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.
Take care.